Hello fellow audio nerds, I'm Steph, and this is MajorHiFi. This past week I got to spend some quality time with the Strauss Wagner SI201. Now this little earphone actually terminates to a lightning cable, and that's going to make a lot of Apple users super happy because, yeah, if you're sick of using the dongle like I am, you'll be super interested in this review. But who are these really for, and how do they sound? Let's go back in time. I'll share with you my first impressions, and then I'll meet you right back here for my overall thoughts. All right, here we go. Hey everybody, welcome to my place. So today I've got with me the Strauss Wagner SI201. So let's see what's inside the box here. All right, so as you'll see here, it's a super simple package. Just comes with a few ear tips here. Comes with some documentation, a nice little drawstring bag, and then of course the earphones themselves. Now the special thing about these earphones is that they terminate to a lightning cable. So if you happen to have a smartphone of the Apple variety that does not have a 3.5mm port for headphones, then you will be very happy that this has a lightning cable. As for the earphones themselves, actually you'll see that this is like just a normal white color, I guess, and it kind of sticks with like the Apple look because it's got this kind of silver body. I'm trying to see if you can see that with the lighting on this camera, but yeah, it's got like a silver housing here with then the white, so it sticks with the Apple aesthetic. It's very clean and they're small and they seem like this will work for a wide variety of ears. Kind of has like an angled nozzle here that should position them right inside the ears. Additionally, you've got a little mic and remote here on the cable. It's sort of a round cable design. It's a little bit like it doesn't really want to wrap up super easily because it's a little bit stiff, but that said, I'm doing it right now. It seems totally fine, but it's a nice little convenient package for you, and one that isn't too loud, but just kind of has a simple look. It's got the little Strauss Wagner logo right on the tip here, if you can see it. Let's see how I can get the light to work for me. Curious about the fit here. Let's see how it fits. Yeah, this is like super simple and very low key, and yeah, it fits really well in the ear. I'm just using the medium tips here, but I have a nice seal, and actually these are very sound isolating. Yeah, this is going to be a really good option for those of you that need something sound isolating, like if you have a louder commute or something like that. But inside the driver housings here is a 10mm dynamic driver, so it should be able to kind of handle a lot of power and get me some low end. So yeah, let's take a listen and see how it actually sounds. So yeah, I do have an iPhone, and I'll admit that I am absolutely the worst when it comes to the dongle. I've lost mine a number of times, so this is like a very welcome design here. I will say, when I was placing the connector inside my phone, it just feels really well made and strong. Want to get you so you could see this, but yeah, it just feels like it has a sense of durability to it, and yet it's not like heavy or anything. But let's see how they sound. Alright, yeah, I was definitely right about the low end with the 10mm drivers in here. I was just listening to the song Cleva by Erykah Badu, and the kick drum and the bass guitar feel like they have this really nice big energy, and it really contributes to the groove of that song. This is going to be a bass head's earphone for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting because it definitely has some sub energy to it as well, but the low end feels big, so the top range feels a little bit like cloudy, but because of the way the subs come through as well, it kind of leaves that separation from the low frequencies and then the low mids. So the bass and the kick drum in the song really had good separation from each other, even though like the low end has that bigness to it. Alright, yeah, I was just listening to the song Jaja by I Am Nakamura, and the synths, the bass synth and the arpeggiating synth definitely feel like they have a nice sense of thickness. Her vocal has sort of a smiley face curve to it, in other words, so it has a sense of body, but it also has a sense of kind of like airiness to it too, and articulation. But yeah, the low mids really have a lot of energy because that bass, the bass synth in there definitely feels big and it feels emphasized for sure. In this song, it really contributes to the groove because the way the bass guitar moves, kind of moves with the groove of the song. So I actually really like it for this. That said, I can sort of already tell, like, this isn't going to be for somebody that wants more of an even response. This is going to be for somebody that wants, like, a very character-driven earphone. All right, yeah, I was just listening to the song Fever by Ray Charles featuring Natalie Cole. And both their vocals have that same kind of quality that I mentioned with the Aya Nakamura track, which is that they both sort of have a smiley face curve to them. They feel really full, but then there's this sense of like airiness that comes through with these in the high frequencies. And everything sort of leans more toward the highs, so the highs don't feel very thick, but they have good separation from the rest of the sort of like lower treble and the mid-range. But yeah, in this song, the finger snaps, the cymbals, the drums kind of lean toward those higher highs. And kind of because of where the emphasis is in the high frequencies, the vocals actually sounded a little bit less articulate in this song. They did sound very textured though, so it's kind of like they're leaning up there. All right, yeah, I was just listening to the song If by La Fembear, and yeah, the soundstage is definitely there. For example, the sort of high frequencies in the vocals and the background vocals, which sound really nice and wide, and it's emotionally impactful there. But the highs of those things in the vertical domain really contrast well with then like the subby kick drum. But the thing that to me was most impressive about that sense of vertical domain was the kind of arpeggiating synth that really sits in between those two extremes, and it feels really well done. But sort of the sense of depth and also the sense of width to some degree feels like it is affected by the shape of the frequency response. So in terms of the sense of depth, sort of some instruments sit a little bit like further back in space than they normally would, but that contrasts really strongly with then the more intimate kind of vocal sound and the high frequency instruments that come through, which kind of feel more close in space. And in this song, I guess like the sense of width, while it has nuance, there's a really particular differentiation between like the background vocals when they're panned out wide versus like the things more in the middle. While that differentiation is there, it doesn't feel super expansive or anything. I can tell that the sense of space is there, but it's not really overly emphasized or anything like that. Anywho, I'm definitely looking forward to continuing to listen to these throughout the week. Definitely gonna keep listening, and I'll meet you back at the MajorHiFi office. All right, here we go. Overall, the low frequencies of the SI201 are going to be for those of you that like a big bass, because the low frequencies have emphasis in a couple different areas. One in sort of the sub-region around what sounded to me like 40 hertz, and then one a little bit higher up around what sounded like 100 hertz. So you really get like a big sense of punchiness and chestiness and just overall drive to those low frequencies. And it sounds really awesome and is very emotionally impactful for me, for mixes that utilize low frequencies to create that emotional response and to create groove in the song. So I really enjoyed these for hip hop, for pop, for electronic music that really needs that big low rumble when those types of instruments hit. As for the middle frequencies of the SI201, what you're going to find here is a really thick and mellow mid-range. Now, what does this mean? The low mids have kind of a little bit of emphasis to them, and this brings bass guitars, the thickness of synths, the thickness of electric guitars forward, and it really kind of gives it the sense of energy. But that kind of thickness mixed with the high mids, which the bottom range of the high mids actually sits a little bit quieter in the mix. And this kind of leaves vocals kind of leaning in the upward direction, and also kind of takes away a little bit of the snappiness of snare drum. So it sort of comes across in really a mellow sort of way. As a result, I think these work best for genres that utilize synthesized instruments a lot, because you still get the thickness and the fullness and the emotional energy from those synths, but you also, it's not going to bite your head off, in other words. It doesn't need super realistic presence in order to get the point across and in order to have a really strong emotional impact. As for the high frequencies of the SI201, the lower treble has a little bit of a dip, and then the upper treble and the upper octave have a little bit of a boost. Now what this does is it sort of makes things lean upward a little bit. It takes away some of the chunkiness out of hi-hats. It takes away some of the sort of like thickness of very complex cymbals. But it also kind of creates a nice sense of separation between cymbals, shakers, instruments that have a lot of high-frequency information from more complex sounds like vocals and guitars and things like that. As for the soundstage of the SI201, because of the low-frequency boost and the high-frequency boost, the sense of tallness and the vertical domain comes across with a sense of differentiation and really has a nice contrast there. But in a general sense, the rest of the soundstage is really shaped by the frequency response shape. So for example, the dip in the high mids sort of sets things back a little bit in space, because otherwise it would feel closer. And likewise, because of sort of the thickness in the middle part of the mid-range, that kind of affects where middle mid-range rich instruments sit in the sense of depth and then also the width. I think that's why it feels a little bit narrower, because those kind of the low frequencies tend to feel a little bit closer to the center, and it kind of, because there's a lot of low mid energy, it sort of makes everything come a little bit closer in. That said, mixes that utilize soundstage and emphasize it in the mix come through actually with these earphones, and I think that's the thing that makes them really impressive, is that they have a really great sense of character, but it still kind of represents mixes in an aesthetically pleasing way that, especially if you like a big low end, you're going to like these. Overall, the SI201 is a really great option for those of you who use Apple devices and are sick of the dongle like me. It's also going to be specifically for those of you with that situation who also really like a big low end, because that's what these are going to give you. It sort of reminds me of an Apple earbud, but it's sort of just accented and has more character, and really sounds good with hip-hop, pop music, and also with electronic music. Instrumental, kind of synthy stuff sounds really cool with these. So if you're into that kind of music, I think these are a great option for you. Thank you so much for watching. For another perspective on the Strauss Wagner SI201, check out the link in the description down below. I've left a link to my colleague's review there. But anyway, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And for more videos like this, be sure to subscribe. All right, I will see you next time. Bye.